Let's leave the past behind. Walk with me down the road. There's sunshine and light. Say you'll go, don't make me wait. There's no need to hesitate. Let's make footprints in the sand. Let's make miracles. Come hold my hand. Let's find something new. Let's make footprints in the sand. Let's make miracles. Come hold my hand. Let's find something new. Me and you.
I'll let you go, just need some time. At your own pace, you need to find your way. I know now you'll never change your mind for something that matters to me. You do not know what I have in mind. I packed our bags, we'll be on our way. The night was long as I waited without a sign. A sign of what matters to you. But what do you want? What's your biggest need? Every hour we spend together, then suddenly the chances are small, just like the lottery. It's been 72 weeks in this town. I still believe I'll see you again. No matter what I got off the ground, for something that matters to me. But what do you want? What's your biggest need? Every hour we spend together, then suddenly the chances are small, just like the lottery. I just hope we could stay together. We wait and see, but the chances are small, just like the lottery.
You said it was the last time, but you keep coming back to tell me sorry that you take back all the things you said just to hurt me. Our love just went cold, but I'm still burning. Our love just went cold. Why? I keep on making the tried to build my walls up, but you're taking them down. It's tearing me apart, I can't pretend. Now I have to get over you again. You said it was the last time, but you keep coming back to show me. Sorry you have changed now, but it's the same old story. Our love just went cold, but I'm still burning. Our love just went cold. Why? I keep on making the same mistake. I always let you back in when I begin to get myself together again. You are back once more, like everything's the same. I tried to build my walls up, but you're taking them down. It's tearing me apart, I can't pretend. Now I have to get over you again. Have to get over you again. Have to get over you. I keep on making the same mistake. I always let you back in when I begin to get myself together again. You are back once more, like everything's the same. I tried to build my walls up, but you're taking them down. It's tearing me apart, I can't pretend. Now I have to get over you again. Have to get over you again.
I lose my breath whenever I see you. You stole my heart, what is it that you do? My life was great till you added colors. Like the moon needs the sun, we don't care about the others. You set my world on fire. You're my heart's desire. I just wanna love you, just wanna hold you, just wanna be with you till we grow old. Please tell me you'll stay or take me away. I want you for myself every single day. You set my world on fire. You set my world on fire. I don't know what I'd do without you. You make me smile, what is it that you do? My life was great till you added colors. Like the moon is the snow, we don't care about the others. You set my world on fire. You're my heart's desire. I just wanna love you, just wanna hold you, just wanna be with you till we grow old. Please tell me you'll stay or take me away. I want you for myself every single day. You set my world on fire. You set my world on fire. I just want you, I just need you. I don't know what it I just want you, I just need you. I don't know what it is you do. I just wanna love you, just wanna hold you, just wanna be with you till we grow old. Just tell me you'll stay or take
Tere pärastlõunat siit Tallinnast
Good
kultuurigattast.
afternoon from the cultural hub here in Tallinn, or good morning or good afternoon, depending where you are in the world. So today's virtual forum for Estonians across the world will take 2 hours, and this is what you can watch on the Estonian Public Broadcasting Forum and also at the website of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Facebook. My name is Tarmo Jüristo, and I'll be here with you until 6 p.m. We have a quite a varied program today, as you are our diaspora of foreign Estonians across the world. First of all, we'll hear the welcome of the President of the Republic, Mr. Alar Karis, and then we will listen to Sweden, the Czech Republic, the US, and we'll talk to people who you are, as you are members of this community. So I will try to see what the community is like today, what are the things which connect us, how these things connect us, and what these connections could be like in the future. We would like to hear about you and from you, regardless where you are, in Estonia, at home, or in your home somewhere else. So if you have any questions for our speakers or comments, you can log in to our official streaming platform, which is worksup.com, and you can find this information at the bottom of the screen. There is also a participation link at the homepage of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And let us move forward. This is the first point on the program today. And let's look at Sweden. Sweden is one of the 5 largest Estonian communities outside Estonia.
Õnnelikud on Eesti kogukonnad, kellel on oma maja.
Estonian communities are lucky if they have their own house, their own school and kindergarten, their own hobby groups where they can be together and speak Estonian. I would like to greet you all from the Stockholm Estonian House.
Tuhmuv taeva
Suur aitäh selle alguse eest.
Thank you very much for this great start for our forum. And next we will move on to the presentation by the President of the Republic of Estonia, Mr. Alar Karis.
Mul on suur rõõm pöörduda sel virtuaalfoorumil umbes 200 000 välismaal elava Eesti juurtega inimese poole. Sõna umbes näitab, et rahvaloendust selles asjus ei ole ju korraldatud ja nii polegi võimalik täpselt öelda, kui palju elab eestlasi väljaspool Eestit. Aga teid on palju ja hoolimata geograafilisest kaugusest olete te mõjukas osa Eestist. Tegelikult võinuks minagi olla oma perega osa teie seast. Möödunud sajandi 90-ndatel tegin 6 aastat teadust Saksamaal, siis Londonis ja lõpuks Hollandis. Ning oli käega katsutav võimalus, et me võinukski Rotterdami jääda. Saatus läks teisiti, sain Tartu Ülikoolist erialaselt põneva pakkumise ja kolisime Eestisse tagasi. Põhjused, miks eestlased teistesse riikidesse elama ja tööle jõudsid, on väga erinevad ja need väljarändamise lained ulatuvad 19. sajandisse. Meie tunneme rohkem muidugi 1944. aasta läände põgenemise ja seejärel iseseisvuse taastamise järgselt väljarände lugu. Sõnastan egoistliku alatooniga küsimuse. Mida kodu Eesti teilt ootab? Vastus on muidugi lihtne, et võimalikult palju välismaal elavatest eestlastest seoksid oma tuleviku ühel või teisel moel Eestiga. Maailm on muutunud sedavõrd, et seotus Eestiga ei tähenda kohustuslikku Eestisse naasmist või kolimist. Seotus Eestiga on nüüd hoopis avarama tähendusega. Just Eesti asja ajamine, Eesti jaoks millegi tegemine, enda eestlasena tundmine teebki teid osaks meie ühisest Eestist. Eesti vajab teie teadmisi, teie kogemusi, teie äri ja teiste kontaktide võrgustikku, teie kultuuri ja vaimsuse hoidmist laulukooridest akadeemiliste ühendusteni. On ka nii, et paljud välismaal elavatest Eesti juurtega inimestest võivad olla mõtteliselt kõige paremad poliitika- ja äridiplomaadid, kes oma praegustes asukohamaades saavad Eestit väärikalt ja mõjusalt esindada. Eesti vajab teie Eesti-meelsust. Hiljuti rääkis üks noorema põlve inimene teie hulgast, kuidas on ta korraga nii kanadalane kui ka eestlane. Ja kuigi järjest rohkemate välismaal elavate eestlaste peredes kaob eesti keel, siis ometi on nad edasi eestlased. Sest neil on alles eesti meel. Eesti meel ongi see esimene, mis seob teid kõiki Eestiga. Niisuguse Eesti meele hoidmise eest tänan teid kõiki.
Suur aitäh, härra president.
Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Sellega ongi meil väga sobiv minna.
So now we can move on and we will move on to the first guest we have here. And the first guest is in the United States, in Chicago. Karl Herbert Krabi is a very good example of keeping this Estonian mindset, the Estonian spirit across generation. He was born in New York and he's in Chicago today, the president of the Estonian School, and he's a founding member of Estonian Youth Network and many other interesting things. But maybe, Karl, you'll talk about it yourself.
Jah, Karl, palun.
Aitäh, Tarmo.
Thank you very much. So I would like to send my greetings to all the Estonians across the world, my greetings from the United States. My aim is to talk about our mission, because my great-grandfather Herbert fought in the Estonian independence war, was an officer. He had a very clear mission. My grandfather Hellar had to escape Estonia, lived in the United States, and promoted Estonian culture and literature in a foreign country. He also had a very clear mission. And I believe that younger generations abroad, Estonians abroad, we should not lose this sense of our mission. We have to keep fighting and we have new challenges. So if we have the sense of a mission, how can we really get it all done? You have to have your lead principles, which will allow you to impact in a positive sense your own life, your own family, and your Estonian community. I have some of the principles I have been thinking about across the years. First one is that I think that we all Estonians, regardless where we live, what is our generation and the way we look, what is important, what is most significant is that we have a certain connection. This is the connection which brings us together with the Estonian mindset and the Estonian spirit, as the President said. This connection is the most important thing. And I believe that the only constants in the world, in life, is change. And therefore, we have to be open in the way we think. We have to have new ideas and new principles. And these are the things which have to be done in a little bit different way, but these are the principles we have to follow. The future is in the hand of the young people. We know that the young people need to be encouraged with all the resources and possibilities in an academic way and other ways as well. I'll cover this a bit later. So how can we create a sustainable community, which is part of my mission when living abroad? I believe that we all have to sense that we have this accountability before the Estonian community, so we can provide our share regardless what our skills are or regardless of the level of our language. And this connection between the generations is also very important because the older generations, they have a lot of life experience, and young people are full of energy and optimism and positivity. So these two need to meet so we can create this beautiful synergy between the generations, which allow us to create diverse perspectives. And these diverse perspectives will give us new solutions for the challenges today. And I'm happy to note that Estonian culture in Chicago is flourishing. We have a beautiful Estonian house which holds a lot of events. We have Estonian Cultural Society which helps to organize many events. We have a large Estonian school I'm going to talk about as well, and everybody is welcome in our community. So we have the Estonian school in Chicago. We have 35 students ages 2 to 16. Of course, we teach the Estonian language, culture, handicraft, music, history, theatre. And children love coming up with their own plays. A good example was that they organized a puppet theatre themselves. And these were the puppets which were sent in from the Estonian Institute from Estonia, so a beautiful cooperation with Estonia as well. And life skills are important. If you look at the digital era, where the artificial intelligence and robots are becoming more and more popular, we believe that the life skills such as empathy, creativity, communication, all these things are very important. So we help to teach these at the Estonian school because robots cannot do all this yet. I am also part of the Estonian American National Council in the United States, and I have initiated a new program, Estonian Mentorship Network. This is a virtual program and offers young people with Estonian roots this kind of connection, helps them to find mentors in their chosen field, and the mentor will help this young person to find professional and academic opportunities. Because there's another principle which is extremely important, is that what you know is important, but sometimes who you know is also equally important, and sometimes even more important. So the mentor will encourage the young people to start with their network, which opens many doors. And what is even more important, this network creates confidence, entrepreneurship, because we are very enterprising people, and this is something which is going to be expressed better. And we have a lot of competence in our fields. And today I'm happy to invite you, Estonians across the world, start with your own mentorship network or join ours. We are very happy to share our experiences, and we together have a joint mission to encourage every Estonian young person across the planet. Thank you, and I'm looking forward to an interesting discussion.
Aitäh, Karl!
Thank you, Carl. It is so interesting to hear how in your person we have this transgenerational Estonia outside of Estonia, how that has lasted. The question that I would ask myself from you, you are the third generation, just as you mentioned, an Estonian living outside Estonia. How do you see the change? How does the diaspora, expat community of Estonians, how is it changing? And what is most important in that change in the future?
Noh, mõned asjad ikka jäävad samuti, et kui
some
Eesti
things
koolid on veel
stay
olemas,
the same. As long as we have Estonian schools,
maailmas
then no matter what the change in the world, in humanity, schools, language groups, song and dance groups, we have the cultural groups and we'll be able to bring people together. It will be maintained no matter what changes come. I think that is most important. Technology will become better and better, and it was a good example how we initiated the global Estonian Youth Network last year. Most of it took place during the pandemic. We had some events where we had more than 120 young Estonians participated all over the world in the first youth days of Estonia. We found them in Israel, Iceland, Brazil. When you make use of these tools, the technological changes should really give you lots and lots of opportunities. Thank you so much, Carl, from Chicago. And that would be a wonderful moment to move on to the next item on the agenda, and that would be a study that the Baltic the Baltic Studies Institute has been carried out. Many people among you have taken part to get a comprehensive picture on what does Estonian diaspora look like today, what are the different aspects, what are people concerned with, what are the joys of people in this community, and therefore I'd like to invite Kristjan Kaldur to introduce the preliminary results of the major diaspora survey. Kristjan, the floor is yours.
Aitäh, Tarmo, selle sissejuhatusest ja aitäh kõikidele.
Thank you so much, Tarmo, for this introduction. Thank you all participating in this event. Like Tarmo said, we are carrying out a major study, and this is still underway. We'll be sharing a link later on where all of you, the expats living abroad, can give their data as well. So what we have here is not the final results, rather an interim review, but I hope it will inspire you to answer these questionnaires as well as reading the results of this study in the beginning of next year, to see whether it's something missing in the country you're living in, and maybe there is something you'd like to ask Estonia for help. Together with the Applied Anthropology Center, we carried out this study at the Baltic Studies Institute. This is a questionnaire, interviews, focus group interviews. We've gone all over the world to carry out the interviews. Some people went to Chicago to interview the expat community members there. So it covers quite a large part of the Estonian expat community using a variety of methods. A brief picture that we see today, the profile of people corresponding to the questionnaire. One dot is not one respondent, but it's actually a cluster of respondents. Then one spot covers perhaps 3,000 to 4,000 people. You see the classic target countries or target sites dominate, but actually we've covered the whole world.
Me tõesti kasutasime või küsisime väga palju erinevaid küsimusi.
We did ask a lot of different questions, and as I said, I cannot introduce all the results, just a snapshot of all the questions. Those that are familiar with the study might recall something familiar. But we asked classic questions. What are the main reasons? Why did you leave Estonia? You see all the profiles and clusters. These clusters are quite significant. They went to see the world. They went to be together with their spouse, to improve their quality of life, to have an adventure, to study abroad. There were many that were actually born in a foreign country, well, looking from Estonia. So they are second generation members of the expat community. So there are many, many reasons why people leave the country, and they'll come back to that later on. And we'll also have reasons why people would return to Estonia. There are certain overlaps there. First and foremost, why did we do that? Since the interested party, it has been commissioned by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, we ask, what are the shortcomings, what are the gaps, what are the things that members of the expat community would like to have? And no matter whether we carry it out through interviews or we get the information somewhere else, Estonian food, that is something that people relate to. This means being Estonian. This is something that people miss most. We haven't identified all different services and activities people would like to have that they don't have access to right now, but as you can see, it is a wide spectrum of different activities. People would like to study Estonian more than people can have access to. It's either not provided or they don't have access. Different networking events with other Estonians in their current country of residence, activities for children, cultural activities, music and whatnot. So indeed, it is a wide variety of things that people miss. And I hope different government bodies can really provide for the expat community. Something that we studied and that was very important for us as researchers. When we talk about the Estonian community outside Estonia is Estonian language skill. And we asked respondents how important they consider the fact that their children study Estonian. And as you can see, the results are quite positive for us. Only 10% of those who say that Estonian language is not really important, maintaining their Estonian skills is not of their children is not really important. But as you can see, the majority would want to have, or 44% want to have their children speaking Estonian at a level that would be comparable to those living in Estonian. And what we can take away from here is that Estonians living abroad today, having children, they want to maintain their Estonianness through giving their children the gift of language. About 55% from different members of Estonian expat community have organized in one way or another. They are part of a certain network or organization or communities or groups, but when we asked them why they hadn't joined a network or another or an organization, then the picture was quite significant as to what's stopping them. Why haven't they joined, or why don't they take part in the activities of a group? On one hand, that is absence of information. They don't know whether this organization or society is active in their area. A third doesn't feel the need, and I think that's quite positive, but we don't, because we don't need to assume that every expat wants to be organized or part of a society or club. And then we have classic reasons. I don't have the time. Or it is difficult to travel, or they don't speak Estonian, or they don't consider themselves as Estonians. There is a slide here that describes very nicely what could be done today. We also asked, how familiar are you with the different services that the Republic or the government is providing for the expat community? Those that are not aware of any of these things that have been identified here, first of all, grants for Estonians living abroad, support for teaching Estonian language and culture, Global Estonian webpage, run by the Minister of Foreign Affairs today, cultural grants, language camps for children, and so on and so forth. And we develop a picture from here. Awareness, providing information is something that we can do a lot more to facilitate the participation of people in these activities. An interesting thing that I picked up was, well, we asked about 100 questions and we showed 10% here. We asked them, how do Estonians celebrate different holidays abroad? So what we saw is, yes, they do celebrate, and you ask that about 50% is celebrating Estonians, 50% celebrate Christmas like Estonians do. But we had also other, and we asked them to specify what that other is. Yes, they chose from what we provided, but many started describing, we celebrate Christmas like Estonians do. And we asked ourselves, is there a special way how Estonians celebrate Christmas? Well, obviously there is, because otherwise they wouldn't have done that. And we finally added that as choice answer. And as you can see, about half celebrate Christmas like Estonians do. So that relates to this Estonianness. What is the outlook for future? How many would want to return to Estonia, or if they've been born abroad, whether they want to come to Estonia? About 1/3 says that they want to do that. Is that a big or small numbers? We don't know. We're going to analyze that more at the end of our study. Right now, what I can provide is preliminary statistics. That 1/3 says about that they really want to come back to Estonia. There are different reasons on a different time scale, right away, or in 5 years, or 1 year. Also, when they retire, they plan to return. Reasons why they do not come back. I won't go into detail here, but you see there are different reasons. They see that working in Estonia isn't sufficiently attractive, or career opportunities do not correspond to expectations. Social support system isn't as cool. They want to go on living abroad because their family is there or their spouse is there. They fear that their professional development or their work experience it gives them more opportunities or more chances of success abroad. So there is a wide scale of reasons why they don't want to return, among those who did give an answer. And my final slide is quite an interesting question that we asked. We asked them to point out one positive and one negative element that relates to Estonia, the state of Estonia today. As you can see, as positive is the president's institution, whether that is personally Mrs. Kersti Kaljulaid, Lennart Meri, or Toomas Hendrik Ilves. Positives were also music, culture, nature, digital country, and all these things that join Estonians abroad with the Republic of Estonia. Negative, right-wing populism came out really strong. Right-wing populism is something that Estonians living abroad feel that this is where Estonia is moving, and that is seen as something really, really negative. There are racist phenomena and others, and you probably behind the screens were giving one of those answers. That's actually all from my side. Once again, that was a very fast overview of what we've done today. Hopefully that made you think a bit.
teistega suhestute, mida te
How do you relate to others? What do you see in Estonia? When do you want to return, if you want to return? And the results will be final in January or February next year. This information will be sent to all the lists, all the communities. And I'm asking all of you who haven't taken part in this questionnaire, there is a link here, or go to webpage diaspora.ee and you can still participate in the questionnaire. That will give us a much better possibility to map out different clusters in Northern America, in Europe, what's happening in Asia, and so forth. That's all from me. Thank you very much. Thank you, Christian, for all the work you've done and what's still in progress. And we'll move on with a panel, and I must ask Marin Mõttus and Tuuli Emeli-Liivad to the stage. Tuuli is an active member of the Estonian youth community in Finland, also member of the Estonian Worldwide Youth Network. And Marin, you were also part of the European diaspora. Right now you're back at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And in the course of your everyday work, you try to continue to do things better for people living outside the country. And before we get to the actual questions and debates, could I ask all the viewers, and saying what Christian said, please take part in the questionnaire. The more we hear your voice, the better the picture will be. And the better will be results as we work with it later on. If you have any questions to Christian or anyone else from the panel, please use the WorkSap link.
Estonians Foorum
2021. You see that at the bottom of the screen, and you can send your questions. I can pick them up and forward them to the panelists.
So now to continue, I would like to ask you, Tuuli, as you were listening to this overview provided to Christian, how much do you recognize yourself, or how much do you recognize your own generation living outside Estonia? Thank you for the question, actually, and also would like to thank you for this overview. As you said before, that I'm also the member of the board of the Estonian Worldwide Youth Network, so maybe I have a little bit wider view. I'm not really focusing only on myself, but on different target groups as well. So I have asked my friends in Estonia who have left Estonia as students. They decided to study somewhere else, not in Tartu or Tallinn. And they don't necessarily feel that they're global Estonians, or, as we just heard, they move somewhere else on a temporary basis in order to get an experience of living abroad. And I believe this is also where we should now ask what it is what we can do in Estonia and in the local Estonian community, so that this young person will find this connection. So wherever they are, they would get enough activities and possibilities to engage and apply their skills. And this is what keeps the interest alive, so they would have a strong identity. So how often does it happen that you come across this question, that when do you come back to Estonia, for example? Well, so far today, it's been 3 times somebody has asked me that. And since I've had this great possibility to be here on the stage in Estonia in Tallinn today, then I definitely see that I am active in the local community. I do what I can. And I hope that the fact that I'm engaged will also encourage the others. And yes, indeed, I will come back to Estonia. Well, I wasn't going to really ask that. But thank you very much, Marin. I'll move on to you. So now, if you think about as an official for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, then you're working with the diaspora and Estonians abroad. So what caught your attention in the overview that Kristjan provided? What you would like to take away into your daily work? Thank you very much, Kristjan. That was great and it was really inspirational. There are some things which I could have guessed that they were like this, but there are a few surprises as well. So a couple of ideas. So first of all, what I would like to see is that the Estonian identity abroad is not a burden or an obligation, but it's an added value. And this is something which perhaps would provide added meaning to somebody's life. I like this idea of adding additional layer of meaning. And I'm also convinced that in year 2021, Estonia is no longer a country which should try to prove to the world that we can get things done and that we can cope as well as Europe or United States. We are no longer that country. So if you want to know, you will know that we can do things as well as anybody else. But what is perhaps possible is, and what we should do more, is that offer this kind of soft power, get people to join us and provide this message of what it is what we can offer to the world. What would not exist without us? What are the things you can do with us? So we are not always very good at these things, and this is the role our compatriots abroad could carry. We have been thinking about three main directions of work to do. And first of all, I would like to support Estonians living abroad who want to maintain their identity and the widest sense of the word. Would it be Estonian sports club, a choir, folk dancing, a political debate club? All of this falls under our support, and financial support can be applied until November the 30th, so you still have time. But also we'll be helping you that who from Estonia can participate and how things can be done. Another direction is the children, young people and the parents. You mentioned the language studies. That is very important. Estonia has supported that already for quite a long time. So offering language learning materials, virtual platforms. And if that particular country does not have many Estonians, then we have our global school. And I was very surprised that not many people know about that. So please Google Mrs. Helja Kirber, who is the leader of that school. And yesterday, as we had the Citizens' Day, she received a letter of gratitude from the Republic. If we talk about a little bit older people, a little bit older young people, then we have the internships program. This is the professional network, a language practical application possibilities. And then the third thing is that the return. I have to say that I have had problems with this term because, first of all, because there are many young people who have never lived in Estonia. So how is that they said return? It should be a step forward, perhaps. So if there are any questions with school, with your work, because Kaira Koker, who works in the Integration Foundation, and Kaira knows everything about moving to Estonia, and she will be able to consult you personally. The red lines there, these red posts and pillars, regarding the information that we still have a lot of work to do. But it was interesting to see the food is so important for Estonians across the world. It was a surprise, and there's nothing else I can say that Estonian businessmen, ordering food home is not something which is unusual, so maybe we should have an international food express. Thank you. I would follow up with this return to Estonia as moving forward to Estonia, as you said, Marin. And I had a thought also behind it because I have lived outside Estonia myself. And it's kind of bizarre how this topic comes up every now and then. And it's kind of like a precondition is that if you're a true Estonian, then you'd want to be in Estonia, want to return to Estonia. Estonia. And when I looked at the survey carried out by the Institute of Baltic Studies, then I thought also this connection can be completely different. So it's the precondition is not that you will be here in Estonia, because you can be an Estonian in very many different ways. So you can have different types and levels of connections. And now, if I ask this question from Kristen again, then your survey is a snapshot. It's a picture of that moment. But there is a change we also understand is part of it, because Estonian diaspora is changing. As Tuuli said, this is kind of this Erasmus Plus generation. Young people who go and want to study elsewhere, and then they find a home or they get busy there, and then they are Estonians still without having to live in Estonia. So this kind of change, was it also obvious to you when you carried out your survey? We have been thinking about it quite a bit, because we are helping the ministries to carry out different surveys and measurements, because then I thought about different ideas that maybe it's not only one single question or connection to Estonia or identification or self-determination. Different generations can have different approaches, because you can see very clearly that there are some people who left Estonia after the Second World War, during the Second World War. So that's quite many decades ago, and their connection to Estonia is completely different. So maybe sort of ethnical and cultural, nationality based, and it's not anything bad, of course, but further you have more generations you add, you have more of a global aspect. So maybe these groups could be seen in different ways. So young people want to get connections to through culture and music and Estonian bread or food in general. So you can see that there are quite big differences over generations. So this return is not return to somewhere, but we have to get out of this framework or this idea that we want to drag them to back physically, because today these connections can be completely different. They can have a connection to Estonia in many different ways. So there are different methods. So here I have this question to Tuuli as well. It's quite interesting because we have been holding this event for half an hour, and now for the first time I would like to say that, Tuuli, do you feel that you are foreign Estonian? It's the first time I'm going to use this term. This is the traditional name for this community. How do you feel if I use these words? Personally, if I'm in Finland or if wherever I am, then first of all, I would introduce myself as being from Estonia. I'm an Estonian. I like the global Estonian idea. But I think that this terminology is up to yourself. We have some questions from the viewers. And I would pick first the most popular upvoted topics. And this person is saying that I'm not planning to move back, but I like this idea that as an Estonian abroad, I can also be in contact, I can be beneficial. This is something we also discussed. So more specifically, the question is, I would summarize some questions. And I think perhaps Marin, you can answer this. I have been thinking about moving back to Estonia with my family, but I don't know where to start, because where can I get information for a job, for schools, and I would like to talk to somebody who has also already done all this, but I don't know anybody. I think that if you have this kind of generic questions, this integration foundation, and people don't really know to look for this information from there, because they have had really good experiences, and they can also give you some advice. Also, when it comes to the internship program for the young people, it's more or less the same thing that people who plan to move or maybe want to have business ties to Estonia, then this should provide you the network in Estonia, because People want to come somewhere where they have a network. There are people with whom they can communicate. So I believe that these are the two things which are important. And please keep an eye on the Global Estonian portal, because we would like to create opportunities there to communicate with people who have perhaps moved back from other countries, who have had this experience already. And I hope that there are many other opportunities there. Thank you very much for this brief chat. I'm sure that we could keep talking for a long time, but let us sum up for now and let us continue with a musical interlude. And we will have music by an Estonian who's called Kymbali Williams, and this is her.
See laulu nimi on Hanja Miis.
This is called Hanja Miis, a man from Hanja.
Hanja Miis vidi lõpp ja kevad. Hanja Miis vidi lõpp ja kevad. Kolme päeva võrrale ju. Kolme päeva võrrale ja Hanja Miis läks tiganiku puuti. Hanja Miis läks tiganiku puuti. Uma kolme kopkaga. Uma kolme kopkaga. Hanja Miis, tässä ostaa yksi nupse. Tässä ostaa yksi nupse. Uma higi vaivaist. Uma higi vaivaist. Hanja Miis nägi silguputtu. Hanja Miis nägi silgupuutu. Tiganiku letti. Oh Hanja Miis, oh Hanja Miis. Aitäh teile. Ja nüüd
Thank you. And now, the next song is titled Thousands of Forms.
Tuhanded külad, tuhanded talud laiali Eestimaa. Sündinu nendes kaduned põlved vana vanemaid. Sündinu nendes kaduned põlved vana vanemaid. O Eestimaa ja o sünnimaid. Kuni su küla veel elab, elad sina ka. Kuni su küla veel elab, elad sina ka. Küllasid vilja, lõikasid vilja vana vanemaid. Tähi tähis taevas lugesid ilma lastele saatus ka. Tähis taevas lugesid ilma lastele saatus ka ja. Oo Eestimaa ja sünnimaa, kuni su küla veel elab, elad sina ka. Kuni su küla veel elab ja elad sina ka. Lapsed kasvasid, sirgusid suureks, pöördusid metsast ja maist, rebisid puruks põlised juured, lahkusi kodus naid. Oo Eestimaa, näo sünnimaa ja oo Eestimaa ja pajau. Sünnimaa, sünnimaa, oo Eestimaa ja oo sünnimaa, kuni su küla veel elab, elad sina ka. Kuni su küla veel elab, elad sina ka, elad sina ka, elad sina ka, elad sina ka. Aitäh!
Thank you.
Ja aitäh, Kymbali.
Thank you, Kymbali.
Aitäh selle laulu või nende kahe laulu eest.
Thank you for these songs. And as I said in my introduction, as I was inviting you to the stage,
Ebatavalise taustaga Eesti inimene.
you're an Estonian with an unusual background. You've been born in London, your roots go to Ghana and Estonia. Tell us a few words about how did you landed here? What brought you here? When I was a child, I had a dream, which was I'd really want to live here. I simply want to live here one day. And when I was 21, then I moved here to Mõisaküla, and I built a music studio there. So I'm a musician. Composer and a teacher of music at Abia kindergarten. I teach them from 3 to 7, and I started working there a year ago, and this is the time for me to speak proper Estonia. So I'm speaking proper Estonian for a year, and I really appreciate it now because it was a really hard experience for me. I felt perhaps a bit uncomfortable because I cannot express myself. I can't express my thoughts and my feelings clearly. I feel that many people might understand me or then they mightn't. But right now, I feel much stronger with my language. And this is a little story explaining why did I come here. And now, being here, you are one of those people that works with Estonian music, taking it to all kinds of places. You have a record coming out, don't you? Yes, when I was a child, my mother taught me. She taught me these folk songs, and I grew up with these songs throughout my life. And at some point when I came here and I started recording the songs very quietly, very much under the radar, and I felt, oh, I'll just record a full album of my favorite folk songs. This is my soul work. I know that I'm arranging everything, like the album that I'm making right now. That is Estonian poetry, folk songs. Some of them are in Seto, some of them are in Võru. And the album is titled Songs Are Birds. And it will be released on the 17th of December. And that's a wonderful date for me as well. My goal with this album is that to spread these folk songs. And I want to be a mediator between Estonian culture and, I don't want to say London culture, but rather Western culture. A mediator between Estonian and Western culture. But that is together, I did that together with, I'm playing the guitar like right now, and then I sing, and then I put more voices to it. It's almost like a choir. That is the vibe of the album. Thank you, Kymbali. We'll be hearing more of you today, but thank you right now. And we'll continue with the program, and the next link is to Czechia, and our guest there is Ivi Zayedova. Ivi, are you there? Yes. Yes, I am. Hello, Ivi. Hello to Prague. What's the weather like? Well, it's overcast. It must feel right at home, just like what we have here. But first of all, Ivi has been working with something very important for the Estonian community, working on memory. I can say that you've committed your whole life to that, being outside Estonia to keep up the memory of generations of Estonians that have left before, that have kept up the Estonian vibe outside the country. You've done that in Czechia. Do you shed some light as to what has this project been like? What has been your life like? This year, we celebrated 30 years of opening that group in Czechia. It's also 30 years of restoring our independence. In 1997, until then, there was no embassy of Estonia in Czechia. So our club became sort of a bridge for Estonian and Czech relations. So it has been slightly different. This year, a unique event took place. For the first time in Europe, a 60-page newspaper in a local language was published. A special number of a local paper, Estko, local friends, Estophiles, friends of our club, and also in the world. So that brings together all of them. I wrote about that in the press release that has been shared by the Minister of Foreign Affairs in Estonia. And what I'd really like to point out is that Czech-Estonian club was accepted in a wider Estonian community in the world. And as a representative of that club, I'm elected as a vice president there. If I can make a smooth transition to what is the main topic of this virtual forum, is global Estonianship. As I said, it's been my task to maintain Estonian memory, and we are working hard on that vis-a-vis the events that took place in autumn 1941, when thousands of Estonians had to flee the Soviet forces. The same number were left behind, friends, family members, relatives. And right away in the camps, people started protecting everything they had to protect their life, their national convictions, to protect the Estonianship in their hearts, in their language. And as a representative of that memory association, 2018 was the year when the Global Central Council turned to Estonian government, underlying that this date of the major escape or flee had to be declared a national holiday. And we started celebrating this day with celebrations that lasted many days. Also, Madis Somelar, head teacher at Tallinn Reaalkool, joined us, arranging different lectures for high school students, introducing the age of refugees and their work in restoring Estonian independence. Of course, there were many articles in an Estonian press, and we were very happy about it. But I also need to mention institutions like the Museum of Occupations, Estonian Evangelical Church, the Association of Estonian Flag, and Memento Association. And they also prepared a memorial plaque. Thanks to Memento and other associations, the date of the major flee was part of the memorial events. There were also celebrations on the Liberty Square to commemorate the events of the autumn 1941. It all helps us to explain history to Estonian refugees, and I'm very happy about that, because that helps it to have a place in our common consciousness. The historical role of Estonian refugees seems to be something outside history, but as we speak about global Estonianship, this is something that we need to pay attention to. And we hope that our supporters at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Riigikogu will support us, and Riigikogu will approve that as a Memorial Day, whether it's the 19th of September or any other day. And this date would be added to calendars. This Memorial Day could be a bridge between Estonians at home and abroad. That would be a brief introduction. It's a very official one, but that's how it is.
So, as you mentioned what you do, so we can actually say that, as you said, that you bring the foreign Estonian history back to Estonian history. So it's part of the Estonian history. So, as you are in Czech Republic yourself, and a member of the Central and Eastern European Foreign Estonian Community, can you say how this diaspora of Central and Eastern Europe is different? Thank you for the question. Of course, geography you cannot change, but geopolitics do change. So Czechia has always been part of Central Europe. And I have to say that I've had many contacts with the Eastern European countries, who is Russia, or the Ukraine especially. But I do not know so much about them, because we are in a slightly different space, and the Czechs have been under pressure as well during the occupation period, for example, as the same as it was in Estonia, although it was different. And In 1983, I found myself a member of an association, which was the Baltic Sea Association, which is an oppositional group. And this is how we started with our club, with all the developments. And perhaps maybe this is why we moved the same direction, that we try to introduce life in Estonia, things which have actually happened. And all our Estophiles are engaged in this as well, not only Estonians, because there were not so many Estonians at the beginning, but now these numbers have grown, and we have a lot of young people as well. But I would like to mention David Pliska, who has translated a lot of information about what happened in Estonia after 1940, because in Czechia nobody really knew. It was just the Soviet Union. Maybe this is particular here. But of course the communities change, we develop, we change. And also we can connect more to the other Estonian clubs because we've talked to the one in Switzerland, in London, in Austria. So we have all our own societies and also we have our own events. So you have also the pen club, and you mentioned translations, and this has been a very big job as well, because the translation of Estonian literature, not only history, and this is something which I would say that you are leaders in the world. Thank you. Indeed, we have over 50 Estonian books which we have translated. Tammsaare, for example, as an Estonian author, and this is thanks to our good friends Estophiles who have been really taking the lead role here. We hope that we can also continue. And this is also what I hope, as I love literature. But thank you very much, Evie. We shall continue now with our event. And in order for us to continue, I would like to invite here Rainer Sternfeld. And we have two other people who will be joining us across internet, Ede Shank-Tamkivi and Riina Kindlam. So before we are actually starting with our chat, I would like to encourage you all as viewers that please also submit your questions to the members of the panel, your thoughts, your comments. So what we can cover during this discussion. So this is not discussion only amongst us, but you can also participate. So in order to start, we have a bit of a provocative title, who is a genuine expat or foreign Estonian? So first I would like to ask this question from Riina, because perhaps you are most specifically this person who could fall under this category, that because you're in Canada, you're in Toronto, you were born there, you're Canadian-born Estonian, and now you have a little bit different connection to Estonia, maybe more immediate than it used to be. So if you were to start now, how do you understand this term if you talk about foreign Estonians or expats? Good afternoon, everybody. Happy to see you all. I have never had problems with this term foreign Estonian or expat Estonian. This has been discussed a lot, and Tuuli Emily said very well that we can all define ourselves. Some people say that it's a bit of a disruption because it puts people into different categories, but I like these different categories because I think it gives a little bit of a window to the background. Because myself and most of my friends, we have used this term. So I'm a child of the refugees, So this is my background, that I really feel that I'm an Estonian. But you might need to speak a little bit slower with me, or I speak a little bit funny to you. There are some differences. Patriotism, for example, something which is ingrained in us already. So there is a slightly different subculture. And there are many different kinds of Estonians nowadays. But I do agree, although this term, although I live in Estonia now, so I would say that I'm a former foreign Estonian. So if we were to continue, then I would like to ask this question from Ede. You have lived outside Estonia for quite a long time, and you have children who have grown outside Estonia, and you have one child who was born outside Estonia who has 2 citizenships. And do you feel that you are an expat or foreign Estonian or former foreign Estonian? So if we start with these categories first, with Rainer, we talked about it yesterday, that in today's conversation, we would like this thought to carry, that we don't really say that who is in or who is out, because foreign Estonian is somebody who's outside. So when it comes to terminology, I would also use this terminology, which we have heard, a term we have not used that, which is international, cross-border Estonian. So this is the group I would use. I would say that I'm a cross-border Estonian. So as Riina, who grew up in another country but is in Estonia now, but you can see we're both in contact with you virtually. So we are in a virtual neighborhood, and Rainer, we have lived in Palo Alto, more or less the same distance from each other as we live in a suburb of Tallinn, but do we meet more often now or not? Then it's also another interesting question, because we do meet virtually more, regardless if it's 3 kilometers distance between us or a lot more. So this is one of the dimensions. So if we need to put ourselves into any boxes, then I'm a cross-border Estonian. So where I am today, it is, or at the moment, is secondary, because thanks to virtual solutions, we can be as close to each other as we want to be. And if we talk about the nationality of the children, then this is a question we have discussed quite a lot. And my 6-year-old, who is almost 7, who has dual citizenship, the question was that what is their identification, and they enjoy saying at the kindergarten that I'm an American, but if he goes to the United States, then I'm sure that he will enjoy saying that he is an Estonian. So it's because when he turns 18, I suppose that he would have to surrender his American citizenship. But once he comes to that age, hopefully this law has changed and he does not have to make that decision. I have to admit to myself that I do not consider this category as very important, but for us as Estonians, it seems to be that this is one of our favorite hobbies, that we have had ferocious disputes about who is a proper foreign Estonian, but who is a proper Estonian in the first place. And often these discussions have been held. If it's a proper Estonia is a package, part of the language. So what happens with ethnic Russians who speak Estonian? Are they Estonians then? Or can Estonians look different than most Estonians? And Rainer, you have been You're founder of the Global Estonian podcast, and you've been discussing this topic quite a lot. So maybe you have more extended view, as Ede says, that because you were in Palo Alto at the same time as Ede, but you have been in contact with many different Estonians as well. So do you have a certain sense of it? Good afternoon, everyone. I'm very happy you invited me here. My view of it is that I grew up in a bilingual family because my father is from an Estonian village in Siberia watching Finnish TV, and my professional life has been spent in professional organizations, living 8 years in California, and coming into contact with various different diasporas, Japanese, Lebanese, Irish and Jewish diasporas. And so if you think about them, then they're all really proud of where they're coming from. And they have a global view of their own ethnic groups. And we are like a startup. We are just about to grow. So we have a great potential. So this idea to start with the podcast came to me a little over 5 years ago. And we've had a few breaks during the pandemic, so now we restarted again. So why we had this idea was that I was more or less living on the plane, and we met so many different interesting Estonians across the world who were building Estonia in their own head, regardless of where they were. They were entrepreneurs, architects, doctors, and so forth. And they always saw themselves as Estonians, regardless of their location. So I thought that these stories, their experiences, their sufferings, their success stories, and their ideas did not actually reach us. But if you're part of the closed system, as we were in the conditions of occupations, then they had your communities of foreign Estonians who maintained this culture. But in an open system, in biology or physics, you have the particles which collide and exchange information. So this is what happens. Would we want it to happen or not? And if we forward a very clear message, what are the values we want to build on, what do we expect? And every person who thinks that they want to be linked to Estonia can be linked to Estonia. This is the main message. And the semantics are secondary, but the semantics are welcome, of course, because the language needs to develop, which is very good as well. So maybe one of the few ethnic groups who called our own compatriots living abroad as foreign nationals. Nobody else really does that, but Estonia is a really cool place to live. And now we have the global Estonians, 200,000 and 1.3 million people in Estonia can be part of the proactive network, and we are really part of this journey.
Indeed, I have a similar experience as I come in touch with the expat community of other countries in Tallinn, and I've not encountered people labeling themselves as expat Brazil or foreign Brazilians. I personally think, though, that Estonian and Irish and Jewish and Japanese diaspora have slightly different historic background, why they are where they are, and I really understand that. Like Riina said, that Estonian identity came into being while people were foreign Estonians. It was hard to see that while we were still living in Estonia. So people kept on fighting, at least mentally. They maintained the freedom that they didn't have in Estonia. And this is one of the things that we absolutely have to keep, because it seems to me that one of the lines running through this day is change that we are facing, where indeed older generations have left or are leaving, or they are becoming a minority in this wider Estonian expat community, having newcomers that embody change. And this is where I'd pick up and say, I'm not asking which is more important or place them against each other. I'd rather keep them in focus, both of them. But I'd like to ask Riina, you, for example, how much of a change you see? Because while you are in Toronto right now, yes, I'm in Toronto right now, and doing the working for the country and president. I'm at Ehatare, going to Kotkajärve, and I'm living Canadian life. This Estonianship is very much part of me. But the change that I've noticed recently or nowadays is that the strong foundation that we had from our grandparents, this super strong generation, we don't have that anymore, and we consider that something, it was something given. There were and there are a lot of people speaking Estonian. Toronto is one of the few people in the world where you don't need to look for Estonians. We spoke about the dispersed Estonians, and the questionnaire showed that we don't know where to look for Estonians. Then you should come to Toronto. We have a food store. Maybe that's temporary. And church congregations are shrinking. There are certain cracks there, but we have Vemu. We're going to have a new center instead of the Estonian house. We still have guides and scouts, supplementary school, our newspaper, and it's quite amazing to see how things work 4 generations down. Linguistically, we are on the brink of a precipice. Very much so. I have not carried out precise studies. I don't know how many people speak Estonians yet, but I'd say 75 to 80% of Estonians that are really active Estonians here, they speak Estonian. The percentage not speaking Estonian, these are kids. These are mixed marriages, and it's somehow very close to my heart that we're able to maintain the Estonian language. And thanks to people that became Estonians after Estonia regained its freedom. They started teaching Estonian in our schools. They started publishing the newspaper. It has been carried out so far in such a good way. I'd want it to survive, although English has come in strongly. And those who want to study English, that's fine. But 45% want to maintain the Estonian language, train their children in Estonian. So I wish they'd always have that support. I recommend internet radio to be on most of the time so they'll have the background in Estonian. Rainer, you wanted to add something? With that thought, I recalled something that Ede and I have been talking about a lot. What I like about the development of the Estonian expat community is that we regained our independence about the same time when internet became available for masses. And this is a coincidence like we have in the universe. If Estonia had become free again sooner, which in a sense would have been better, but our identity would have been different. Like if you were born in 1991 or 71, your identity is different. And due to that interplay, we've been able to build up a very nice international diaspora. And we speak about Silicon Valley, where 8 million people live here on the line. Silicon Valley, Tallinn, Haapsalu, that corridor is very wide. You can run you can establish a society for left-handed, one-handed fishermen, and you'll have that. And we'll see that upward trend. Second or third generation people born outside rediscovering Estonia. They want to be part of Estonia. And there are so many people that have turned to us saying, well, I'm interested in your program. I don't see a reason why can't there be more of it. Why can't we have 2 million of us? It's modest growth, but that's quite remarkable. True. I'll pick up some thoughts, that is you behind the screens that have sent your questions and comments. I'll read out a few, but something that seems to be a leitmotif is that what we asked before, we are not speaking about foreign Estonians anymore. How justified is that distinction nowadays? I'd like to read that. Does somebody say internal or domestic Estonian? Or how do you call Estonians that have lived abroad for 20 years? Are they foreign Estonians? And something that has been asked as a question, and I'd like to pick it out, because it relates to what Riina has said, and I'll refer that to Ede. It came up in relation to children. Estonian language seems to be one of the things that came out from the IBS study. It's one of the columns or pillars that Estonian mind rests on, like President Karis said in his welcoming speech. Eesti keel, Estonian language, where is the person whose both parents are Estonian, but who doesn't speak Estonian himself, is that person an Estonian? I know parents living abroad that come across this issue again and again. The language is dying out. Well, the kids know that, but it's very easy to happen that the language of their play is English. And parents are facing a situation. How do you react to that? Ede, you must have personal experience with that. You are an anthropologist, you've studied children. What is your opinion on that? I just wanted to begin with the idea that the president said, the language and mind, if we can't maintain language, let's maintain the mentality. That's even more important. My experience and what Riina said before. Living in Palo Alto for 3 years and having lived in different parts of the world before that, somebody said before that when you live abroad, it takes more energy to be an Estonian than when you live back at home. And we take that as something so self-evident, especially as I lived in Palo Alto among the West Coast Estonians that had maintained Estonianship for more than half a century. I happened to be a passionate patriot of Estonia who worked on maintaining the Estonian language and developing the language. And I edited a web journal, Eesti by the Bay. So how do we violate Estonian with this play with English? But the locals spoke the most beautiful Estonian I've ever heard. That was something where we as late newcomers had a lot to learn. But the experience with my kids is that language, is that a defining aspect, like Benedict Anderson said in 1980s with his book Imaginary Communities, where he says that language is what defines a nation. We've moved on from there. It's not self-evident anymore. Or 10 years later, Arjun Apaturai, another anthropologist, says that language is irrelevant. Thanks to what Rainer just said, virtual opportunities give us. We can create these communities for ourselves. And there, the language and one-handed fishermen, no matter what it is, what is it that we want to belong to? We can create these communities for ourselves. So in that sense, it is wonderful to know many languages. Being someone else in the US, for example, saying that there are 800,000 people speaking that language, nobody believes that. They say, how can you have a language that is so small? How do you maintain that language? And I look at the people in California that have done precisely that for the past 50 years. And at that moment, I remember when I looked up that the compatriots program from the state supporting them, that was the global support, was 450,000 euros for 6 years for the whole world. And most likely a few thousand euros went to the West Coast Estonians. And with that money, they could maintain their language circles and schools for Estonian children and all the community. That's phenomenal work. And these Estonians have not only the Estonian mentality, but also the Estonian language. I think this is something that we can learn from here at home as well. I'd pick up on that and come back to a quote that you voiced before. One speaker has given a comment in English. Ma ei räägi eesti.
Ja see on asi, et millega ma võin tagasi ede, kui sa mainisid
This is Estonian heritage is really important to me. And you spoke about Benedict Anderson. He speaks about language, but says something else. This imagining community. I remember the most elegant definition. It is created around a ritual. These are the people who read the same papers every morning. And this is quite unique. That happened to Estonian expat communities after the world. They had their informational space that joined them. This might be the key that we can think about with internal Estonians. If we expand that circle, who belong to that ritual, these are the people who read. And there are many issues here. What is the fragmentation inside Estonia? Estonians in Estonia don't read the same newspapers. This is something where we need to work on harder. This is not a matter for the expat community. This is what we can do as the Estonian community globally. And Rainer, isn't this something that you've been working on with your podcast? I believe that everyone's relationship with Estonia and the international network of Estonians is a relationship like any other. A good relationship survives when there are not only old memories, but you create new ones. And I think that if we are active in developing our language, in bringing our people together, every person that we have as a guest on our podcast comes to their network, their fan club. We've linked people that haven't known each other. We have very familiar people there. We have people that no one has heard of, that need their own platform to reach our minds. So I think creating new memories, creating a new language is extremely important for the global Estonian, for Estonians in general. If you've suffered occupation for 50 years and hundreds of years under foreign power, we have such a limited, very short experience being independent. We have an opportunity now to build this diaspora, to build this freedom. Even if something should happen now, we still have that Estonianship. We invest in the future. And this is a perfect thought to sum up this panel discussion before we move on. And what came up from this debate among the four of us, like Rainer said, we are creating new experiences. But it's equally important, what Riina said, maintaining the old one. And there is no need to draw the lines so hard between foreign and domestic Estonians. It's important that we do, as a global community of Estonians, we create something that our children can remember. And with that, I'd like to thank you all the panelists here for this debate. And let's continue with something that came up from the studies here. And it surprised me as well. Something that the Estonianship seems to convene both here and globally. Estonian food, the taste of Estonia.
Ja tere jälle tagasi.
Welcome back.
Meiega peaks nüüd olema üks inimene.
And now we should have somebody on the screen who definitely is deserving the Global Estonian title, more deserving than anybody else. So somebody who needs no introduction really, who is Estonian, was born in Estonia as a child, moved away, grew up in New York, and now is back in Estonia. Hello, Kristjan Järvi. Good evening, it's good to be here. Since we are coming to the end of our event, we have talked a lot about the continuations of things which are carried with us through the foreign Estonian community, where you have been a part of, you grew up with them in New York. And at the other hand, what is changing? What has changed and what might change in the future? So what does it look like for you if you look at the current situation of the Estonian diaspora and the future? In this conversation, we have talked a lot about food. Food is universal, even if you don't know the language. The same is with music. Our artists and the world of culture, which is not language-based, is as rich as our world of food. And I think this connects everybody who is part of the generations, the foreign Estonians, who are the children of my children, who do not really have such a connection to Estonia. But well, this is theoretical. They have not been born yet, but they would be born in America, so they don't necessarily speak Estonian. And maybe the spouse is not an Estonian patriot and is maybe does not even consider it important. And I know that my partner and my ex-wives, they were not Estonians, and they did not really understand why Estonian is so important. And this cannot be explained to a person who speaks English and lives in the United States or in Australia or in Canada. So because their language does not really have a nationality, because the English language is not their language, not an American language, it's not an Australian language. But since this is the language they speak, they don't see this as an issue of something related to a nationality. So this kind of a feeling we have. For example, recently I watched a video of the Baltic Way. I got so emotional, I got tears in my eyes, and I felt that this was the reason why we were abroad and what we were actually fighting for. So this to create this situation that we can actually come back to Estonia. And I would not really say that my father was a foreign Estonian, because his aim was to be here, to work here, but this did not really happen the way he wanted. So he managed to inject in all of us, in all his children, that Estonian is as a goal in life. And it's a bigger objective, bigger goal for all of us. And this is an achievement. And since this achievement has been achieved in the best sense of the word, then this is perhaps not so longer so important for everybody, especially younger people who do not often understand that the existence of Estonian is something which is self-evident. We are not like Iceland, which does not have any neighbors, but is even smaller than Estonia. So, but through its culture, it has created this kind of attraction. It's a hub, not only for their own population, But for foreigners, so they have a certain sense or an understanding of the nature of songs, of a way of thinking, which is somewhere far away and is exotic. So I can see a great deal of similarities with Estonia, but Estonia has an interesting history, which is connected to a very big neighbor, and not only this big neighbor, but with the changing political landscape of Europe. Freedom is not something which is self-evident. So what I can see for the future is that our small and cute and genuine country, which contains all this warmth and goodness, and all these things which I cannot really express in words. Then us in Estonia, we need to acknowledge that this is something what exists for us, and it doesn't exist in other countries for us, where this sort of personal approach can be lacking, so that this recognition that I'm part of a really large family, it doesn't exist in Germany. In Germany, you have the patriotism, but a German doesn't look at another German, say, with a feeling that you are, I don't know you, but you could be my relative. And this is how it is, more or less, in Estonia, that all the people in Estonia, I feel that they are my family. So I know that they are not directly my family, but they could be, like once I start asking questions. And every fourth Estonian knows each other, or they are a couple of steps removed, or they could be actually related. And I do not think that we are as arrogant in a way, like, for example, Armenians, although they are a small country, but in Los Angeles they have, if you talk about diaspora, then every American who has Armenian roots, like all the Kardashians, for example, but we do not really even need to mention that, for example, Steve Jurvetson is Estonian. We don't need to even mention it because we know that he's Estonian. And he's really cool and he's doing very well, and it's kind of like a family secret that he's Estonian, and he does not need to speak Estonian, so it doesn't really matter. So Mark Kostabi in his heart is Estonian, although he doesn't speak Estonian so well, but this is what he feels. He says he is Estonian. And it's a matter of pride for us. So I don't think there is Estonians at home and foreign Estonians anymore. They're just Estonians who do an Estonian thing. And we need to remember that we have a very sweet and wonderful country, where all the aspirations of the 90s and the government we had in the 90s, it was a reflection of the people. And the aim was to achieve what we wanted to achieve, regardless of where you lived in the world, were you in Estonia, outside. So we had this great sense of connection. So we don't really want to lose this understanding, because our existence is extremely fragile. It's like a house of cards. So if we don't safeguard each other and if we don't safeguard our values. And I think it is really about our values through music, through literature, our dances and songs, and our food as well. So people who are abroad, who come to Estonia, my sister lives in Switzerland, for example, but she's not foreign Estonian, but she lives in Switzerland because her husband works there and the children are at school there. But she wants to eat Estonian food. She wants to be here, and my father reads Estonian papers and is closer connected to Estonia in Florida when I am, because I like my privacy. I like to keep away and stay in my summer house, and I don't read these newspapers. And my father always says, "Oh, have you heard about this? And have you read about that?" So although he's in Florida, he kind of lives in Estonia, and we have a goal, we have an objective in mind. And this is a light-filled, fantastic country which needs to live in our hearts and in our minds. So we have to be really kind to each other. So this is this greater Estonian principle and this understanding. And I hope that we will see this and we can share this with all the families, with all other Estonians, and all the people who leave Estonia, and then they understand that Estonia is home. Creating this kind of atmosphere. Well, this is what you do in your summer house as well. You make Estonia larger because music, you mentioned with your house of gods, this reaches outside Estonia and the people who do not necessarily speak Estonia. But thank you very much, and maybe this is a good connection now. We can move on to the last topic today, which joins all these parts, Estonian language and Estonian music. And I would like to welcome here again Kymbali Williams.
Nüüd laulame üks regilaul, mis nimi on Kiigelaul.
This is a song of swings.
Ma tulen teie kiige peale, teie kiike katsuma ja teie kiike katsuma ja kas see kika kannab minda, kas see kika kannab minda, kui ei kanna, las kaduda, kui ei kanna, las kaduda. Minu vende puuekige, minu vende puuekige, uue kige, uhke kige, uue kige, uhke kige, ouna puuste püige kige, ouna puuste püige kige, Sara puusteb sirge kige, Sara puusteb sirge kige, vahte rasteb valge kige, vahte rasteb valge kige. No aitäh teile!